where real stories and big conversations are held every single month. And this evening, I am very excited to have a very direct, very outspoken, but also very deep individual on the show. And his name is James Conway. I have no doubt his reputation precedes him.
Hmm.
However, there are layers to this man that I think are very, very, very worth digging into. We've had some incredible conversations, which I'm delighted that we had the time to do. And they flowed, they were deep, there was an awful lot in them. And I think it is fantastic that you are willing to go to those levels, that you're thoughtful, that you are contemplating the things that you're thinking and actually speaking out about them. So without further ado, welcome, James. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, and I apologize to everyone for my kind of disheveled look, but we have a lovely baby in the house at the moment and three other beautiful children, and business is very busy, and sleep is not as prevalent as it once was, unfortunately. So that's it. But life it's very good at the moment. I'm keeping a keen eye on Ireland and kind of the global situation and that, and trying to be as prepared as possible going into the winter this year, because I do believe we could be in for a kind of a tough winter in a lot of ways. So, yeah.
Let's start there then. Okay, so talk to me about what it means to be prepared going into winter.
Well, on the basis of being a farmer, it means that you have enough provisions for your livestock and for your household that should anything go wrong with regards to getting food in, that you have enough to see you through until the winter planting period again. So I would now have enough silage and hay for the sheep and enough kind of meal to keep them going through until March, April next year, until the spring hopefully comes again. That's because as a farmer, we always kind of hope for spring. And then I would view myself as having kind of a prepared mindset for the household as well. I look at the global situation with regards to inflation, and look, I don't want to fall into the realms of conspiracy, but I think a stock market crash is very likely this autumn. I would have thought April was looking very likely, but looking at some of the stocks that I'd be interested in, they've reduced. Like Oracle is down from, I think, $360 to $160, which is a huge crash. But it's this amazing thing where if it's not on the 6-1 news, no one in Ireland seems to be too worried about it. So, yeah. Then I've travelled a fair bit to the UK in the past couple of months, and the harvest in the UK is going to be ridiculously bad. They've had a huge drought. So has France and Germany and Spain. And I think all of that will probably add up to food inflation. So I am trying to prepare for that my family isn't caught out on the hop with food inflation, so.
Okay, and so something you said in your bio, and I get that, and maybe before I go on to this, I just want to say I think that there's an awful lot of people who are in your line of thinking in connection with what's coming in relation to this idea that it might be a conspiracy theory that there's going to be a stock market crash. I think there's a lot of people who are thinking the same thing. And as we know about conspiracy theories, an awful lot of them are just truths.
Yeah, just wait. Just wait.
Yeah. What did somebody say? The difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is 6 months.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm 100% with that for sure.
Yeah.
So something you said in your bio, and I love the way you describe it. You say a homestead business. So James has Conway's farm. Talk to me about this idea of a homestead business. And is that where you're going when you're talking about being prepared?
Yes. Well, I had always aimed to farm in the west of Ireland. But I never looked at it from the viewpoint of, a lot of people, their dream is to move home and stay on the farm and kind of watch the grass grow and all that. I always viewed it that if I could show people in the west of Ireland that a small farm can be viable and profitable, then more and more young people might say, well, in actual fact, maybe I don't need to go to Australia or Canada. Maybe I can make a business out of the home farm. And perhaps I might have to work a few hours part-time just in case I want to have discretionary money or anything like that. But I'm trying to encourage young people to say, if you are lucky enough, as I was, to have a small piece of land, you can stay at home. You can stay in your area. You don't need to go to Dublin or London or Sydney. You can make it work from home. Far be it for me to criticize the modern world in every aspect. I think the internet and social media, they're double-edged swords. They can be a bad thing in your life, or you can use them as a tool.
Mhm.
And I think I've been fairly effective in bringing the farm to a stage where it can be marketed as a business. So now we have no difficulty with selling the stock we're producing: lamb, chicken, eggs. We run courses and we have events. And, I'm not saying that we're going to be on Forbes next year, but we're doing okay. And
Mhm.
we're doing okay. And it's enough for a couple. So my wife now doesn't have to work as much as she used to have to work. And it's just nice. It's nice.
Brilliant. No, I love that. I think it's that family affair, that connectivity that we've just been speaking before we went live.
Yeah.
To be able to have that, to be able to have your family at home, to be able to be comfortable, to be able to be warm, fed, cozy in your own space, in your own place without
Yeah.
anybody governing you, I think
Yes.
it's pretty special.
And I think there's another aspect to it now. Fair. I'm not going to fall into the realms of relationship advice or anything, but um, I think in the modern world, a lot of couples either have not enough time together or too much time together.
Mm,
It's never like what I view that we have as kind of an idyllic situation where you see enough of each other but not too much of each other. Do you know?
yeah.
So Rose has her own life, I have my own life, but we run the business together, and nothing is a real pressure, if you get me. So I can do this podcast this evening. The children are in bed. Rose is cooking for tomorrow.
Lovely.
Yeah, we do well. We kind of juggle well together, which is good.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'd love to ask you a question that we spoke about because I'd love people to know. So, when it comes to your farm and what you've got going on it, there's one
Yeah,
very interesting piece that I loved. Do you remember our conversation that we had the other night when you were coming? Right. Will you tell people about the man that you have on your farm and why and how he came to be there?
well, his name is Adam, and it's a very easy. Adam has now a mobile home and a deck and an area of his own, and the relationship is very. It's 10 hours of work per week, and then he has no rent or electricity bill or any of those bills, and then he can go to work for other people from his base here. And the 10 hours per week is not in a block; it's entirely at his choosing when to do it, and he can come and go as he pleases, and he's a wonderful asset around the farm. He's absolutely blended in with the family wonderfully, and yeah, it's a lovely arrangement. It's perfect, and I think going forward, I think especially in the west of Ireland, I think a lot of young couples, if they embraced communal living, where they
Mhm.
share their space, but they still retain their home space to themselves, but they have people in their general circle, is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, from a standpoint of saying it publicly, it's very important that one doesn't go from communal into cult, because it's very it's a very easy jump to make. So it is. And
Uh,
I was for a long time toying with this idea and kind of thinking deeply on how do you do this, but retain people's independence, that they don't feel that they owe you something and you don't feel that they're taking everything from you. So I just came up with 10 hours. I was like, well, 10 hours is just an exchange. That's all it is. It's not a cult, it's not slavery, it's 10 hours and that's it. Everything's good with 10 as far as I can see when it comes to working hours. So it is.
I love it because you're creating uh, home feels like what I want to say, but you're creating this homely space that isn't just yours. You have your space, but you've given this man a space to set his life up, to become independent, to not have to think about a massive mortgage, and bananas bills coming out every orifice of his body. And
Mm.
you're giving him the dignity of an exchange that's really powerful because it's work for living and it works for everyone involved. Is this what you mean when you're talking about what's possible for young
Oh, sir.
farmers on small land?
Yes, certainly. There's a wonderful website, if there's any young person who likes the idea of farming but doesn't, mightn't have access to land. It's called WOOFing, which is Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. And you can travel the world, and you basically, for your room and board, you do a small amount of work on the farm, and then you get fed and you have a place to live, and you get to try farming, different types of farming, to see if you like them. So if you're interested in cattle, you can stay on an organic cattle farm. If you're interested in sheep, you can stay on an organic sheep farm. If you're interested in market gardening, you can go to an organic market gardener. None of these people are going to work you to the bone. You might do between 10 and 20 hours a week. And for that, you're fed 3 meals a day. And you get a day off every week where the host brings you to some culturally significant place. So it might be a museum, or it could be a standing stone circle, or some place that you learn about the culture of that country.
Mhm.
And this operates in Ireland, America, Germany, Sweden. It's all over the world. Every country in the world, you'll find a WOOF hosting. Now, it's hard for the host because the host has, how do I say, no kind of idea who's coming.
Mhm.
So what I found with woofing through the years is I prefer Adam, because Adam is perfect. You just
Yeah.
don't hit on perfect all the time.
Yeah.
He's just wonderful. Um, but woofing, for me, if a young person's interested in farming, it's brilliant. It's a great way to travel the world.
Oh, I think that's fantastic. I never even knew that existed, but it makes an awful lot of sense. And it's a great idea.
Yes. Well, my vision, I think it's a very simple vision, is that, years and years ago, medium and large farms had a few workers. These people were doing very hard manual labor for a lot of hours per week. In the modern age, you don't require vast amounts of hard labor because of machinery and automation and better systems. But you can still share your space for 10, 15 hours a week. You can share your space, and you're giving someone an opportunity. And that's the way I view it. I have found over the years, if you give things away for free, there's a kind of a disregard for them. I don't know, it's a part of human nature that, like, I was only speaking with my wife this evening about it. We had a lady here who wants to do a course in what was it, processing chicken and stuff like that. And yeah, and she says I could do it for free. I says I wouldn't, because I says I've ran events here for free, and very little people attend them,
Mm.
because in their viewpoint, if something is given to you for nothing, it's not worth anything. So I was trying to explain this to her: is if you put a fair price on something, then
Mm.
people are willing to say, there's value. It's a strange quirk of the human condition that if something is free, we think it has no value,
Yeah.
which is, a flaw, I think.
Yeah, and I think very few people appreciate free. There are people who do because they have, I don't know, is it integrity, value, conscience, whatever. They understand that a person who's giving something to them for free is giving it out of the goodness of their heart, and they're giving their time and their effort and energy. But I find that there's not a huge amount of those kind of people, and most people are exactly as you describe. Well, if it's for nothing, then it must be worth nothing. Or if it's
Yeah,
very cheap, then it must be low quality.
yes, and it's a ridiculous notion when you think about it, because even if you look at things like machinery, you
Mm.
know, you can get very cheap machinery that's used but perfectly functional, and it does the same job, but the new one is far more expensive, and people go, well, I best go for the new one because that seems to be where
Yeah.
it's at. It's strange. It's a
the
strange
up
thing.
the upgrades. Just in relation to, because I want to come on to something very interesting now. So I have a friend from New Zealand, and we were having a conversation a couple of years ago, and he said something that happens in amongst his people is, say, for example, he needs to have his bathroom retiled. And one of his friends in his friends group is a tiler. He'll come around and he'll do his bathroom for free because he'll know that my friend will come around and help him for something that he needs in a trade. But
Yeah.
not only him comes around, all of their friends get together and they all help each other to do that one person's project. And I thought that sounds very like barter, except kind of like it more or less, but maybe with a bit of extra beer and food,
Yeah.
barbecues, right? And then I have another friend who created a whole barter website, and I thought that's just amazing. And then I saw that you had your fair day.
Yeah.
And at the fair days, you're doing fair exchange and barter.
Yes. Yeah.
How is it working?
Oh, it's working perfectly. We also have a very, very large WhatsApp group that's kind of a skills exchange, exactly what you've spoken about. And then there's subgroups. So we have a subgroup for construction and engineering and a subgroup for home remedies and herbalism. And throughout all the groups, you are able to meet the people who have the expertise in that field. And then once a month, the people from those groups, as well as the public, all congregate here on the farm. It's €5 to be a customer, and it's €10 to be a seller. And then if you're a commercial seller, like, we'd have a large poultry seller and stuff like that, that's €20 because they're not really home. And they never, in fairness to them, they never have a problem with it because they know that they're not a home producer, if you get me. They know. So we welcome them as well, but we do charge them a little bit more. And it's usually between 1,000 and 2,000 people who are here on the day.
Unreal.
And yeah, it's been going very well. And then what we do is the money that's taken at the gate pays for the insurance and the toilets. And then we like to donate to, so it was St. Cecilia's, Roisin, was it? St. Cecilia's Disability School. And then we sponsored 3 underage camogie teams. So under 6, under 8, and under 10 for touring. We sponsored all their kits. And we're just doing it like that, which is, yes, we do charge a price. We need to charge a price to run it. We take a small portion for reinvestment into the farm. And then what's left over, we just donate it to something. So it's my hope now that the next donation will go to a small school in the locality here to help them with playground equipment. And that's just the way we're doing it.
That's amazing, though, because you're so connected to the community, in the community, and not just your own local community, but the wider community of people who are actually coming to the farm to take part in this.
Yes, and that was one of the things I wanted to spread it about. So St. Cecilia's is a disability school for Sligo, Leitrim, and South Donegal. So it wasn't just that you were keeping it in your own area, if you get me. And then touring is not exactly local to us. It's it's a club in Mayo. Now, fair enough, we have friends in the area and all of that, but you're spreading, because the crowd is so diverse and coming from so many different locations. We don't want to just keep the donations to one area, which is this area in Sligo, if you get me. We want to spread it about a bit. So we've done that. And thankfully, it's not deriving much criticism or backlash or anything like that, because when you charge for anything, you do always get a few people who are like, oh, look, it's all about the money. But once they seen that the money was being, how would you say, pushed out to the community once again, then we're fine with it. They were like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
It's not so bad. How long have you been running the fair days? How many years?
So it's just started this year, since March. So our biggest problem now is going to be parking for the winter. So I think the last one will probably occur in September.
Okay.
Which isn't a big problem either, because in September, you're into harvest then. So what farmers really should be doing is selling their goods, and then people are storing it for the winter. And then really for the winter, you should have your goods in for the winter. So what we'll do then is, once again in the spring, start again. And then you'll have the people with the seeds and the plants. And then in the summer, you have the produce. And in autumn, you have the harvest. And then for the winter, you kind of say, don't be driving to Sligo, stay at home and enjoy yourself. And sit beside the fire with yourself. You'll be fine.
So it feels a little bit like, and I only started watching, I don't know if you've ever watched it, Jeremy Clarkson's Diddley Squat Farm, right?
Yeah.
I never really had a very deep understanding of farming until I started watching that. And
Yeah,
he bought this 1,000 acre farm, and it has just, the farming industry in the UK seems to have gone worse and worse and worse every year because of the weather.
yeah.
And so I'm watching this and I'm seeing him create Diddley Squat Farm, and then he has the parking issues like you're just talking about there. And I'm thinking, you're going to be the Diddley Squat Farm of Ireland, right? James Conway, Conway's Farm, Ireland.
Well, I've been to Diddley Squat.
Have you?
Yeah, myself and Darren, he used to help me with the podcast. We travelled over there, but we done a unique thing. So we went to the Irish American History Museum in Northern Ireland. Then we went to a farm in Scotland. Then we went to a farm in the north of England and Wales. And then we finished up because we wanted to show that we weren't just going to the UK to try and find Jeremy Clarkson, if you get me.
Yeah.
But we went to the farm and we went to the farm shop and we went to the brewery and we went to the pub. And I have to say, you can't criticize what he's doing. So even a simple thing. So in the brewery, we were informed that at the brewery and the pub, if you're local to that area, you're paying cheaper prices.
Amazing.
So if you're from within, we'll say, a 20-mile radius, it's cheaper because he wants to look after the locals. He doesn't want bother with them or trouble with them. And the farm shop for me is so achievable. And like, I'd be from a construction background. I know that his builder gave him a bit of a doing because I was watching the program and I was like, oh, yeah, you made a bit of a profit here. But anyone that has a construction background could build that building. They have the ability to build it. If you can do a timber frame and a bit of stonework and a roof, you can build that shop. So everything that he's done is achievable. Now, the critics will say, oh, well, Jeremy Clarkson is a millionaire, blah, blah, blah. He's not spending outrageous sums of money on the farm shop or the farm in general. He's spending just as much as an ordinary farmer does. Now, is he doing it more comfortably? Of course he is. But what he's showing farmers is the strength of branding, of creating a brand and creating marketing. And I just think, to be honest about it, I think he's done the world of good because for a lot of young people, he's encouraged them to say, I could actually do something here. Do you know?
Yeah, and he's brought an awful lot of the farming community together. And I think we find this, well, I don't know about you, but I can only speak for me. I find this a lot in Ireland. There's a lot of disconnection and there's a lot of not joined up thinking. So there are so many opportunities for people to join together and do things in connection so that there's not so much isolation. So farmers all around his area supplying his pub to feed the customers that come to the area. So suddenly everyone has a part in everything. Is that something that Ireland is doing or ready to start doing?
I think the younger people are ready to start doing it. It's certainly not something that's going on. And what I've noticed is from the older farming community, not all of them, but a lot of them, there's a latent begrudgery. If you can make a farm successful in an area where they have not been successful for the last 40 to 50 years. So I have noticed that with some people is, if you're 40 to 50 years giving out about how everything is against you and, the ruined farming 40 years ago, and then all of a sudden, here comes this young lad who has 2,000 people in his field and they're paying a fiver to go into the place. There's a begrudgery. They're just like, well, and then, as I says, it's the whole thing of spread tales and all that. Oh, he's this, he's that. It's nonsense. So we would have had a business not too far. Now, I don't want to, but anyways, it was a tourism business. And I spoke to the owner and I told them about my plans and stuff like that. Oh, this is, you're wasting your time. I says, why? I done this years ago and I got so many thousands of a grant and I put in so much of my own money and nobody will come down here. And then I asked a few questions like, how did you market yourself? Were you advertised? Was the Wild Atlantic Way working at the time? Basic questions. But their policy, even at the end of it, was, oh, look, I'm only saving you a few pounds. Don't bother. It'll never work. And I went, right, fair enough. So anyways, I'd done it anyways, and it worked. And now they don't speak to me. So that's it. Like, so there's a lot of that in Ireland. You know, there is a lot of that in Ireland. Whereas, because I've traveled a bit, if I seen someone doing something and it was successful, I'd be thinking, well, how can I get a bit of that? Yeah. What did I do? What did I do wrong? How can I improve? No, it's easier. Like I always say it, the largest tourist attraction in Ireland was a place called Eagles Flying. It was outside of Ballymote. And it was ran by a German gentleman and a lovely man. And I remember when he first moved to the area, and he had a degree in zoology, and he used to come to the creamery I was working in, and I was only 14 or 15 at the time. And he used to tell people about his degree in zoology, and he was going to start Sligo's biggest tourist thing, and that was grand. And I remember one day 2 old Irish farmers laughing about him because he had hung his sheep wire upside down. And I had a Yamaha Virago 125 motorbike, and I listened to these guys laughing. And when I finished my shift, I drove to his house, and I says to him, excuse me, you have hung your sheep wire upside down. The small squares are meant to be at the bottom. And he says, really? I says, yes, really. I says, because I says, that's to keep the foxes and stuff from coming into your field and that. And he went, oh, okay. He says, I left the small squares down so the rabbits could pass through. So you see, you had two Irish farmers laughing at him, but this man had a reason for doing it. So that was a great life lesson to me, which is everything is not always as it seems. Do you know? Sometimes you need to speak to the farmer themselves to realize it. Do you know?
100%.
So their latent begrudgery was, this bollocks is telling us that he's going to do a tourism centre and he doesn't even know how to put up the wire. You see? So it was a life lesson for me. I was like, oh, maybe these old farmers don't know as much as they let on, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose that comes from years of, you know, that attitude of, well, I did this by myself and I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and I can do this myself and I don't need anybody's help. And I've done it this way for the last 40 years. So this way is fine. And there's an isolation in that mentality.
Yes.
You can't grow from that.
No. Like if you were, you know, it's far from me to be saying it at that, but if you're in Europe now as a pig farmer, presumably you should be looking at the demographics of Europe and saying, oh, pig has been very popular for a very long time, but looking at all these newcomers, perhaps it's time to look at goat. Do you know what I mean? But no, you can't have those conversations with a farmer because they do become very set. And you see, this is why I like permaculture, is because permaculture is mobile infrastructure that isn't very expensive. So you can make a mobile chicken coop that maybe you stick a couple €100 of timber and metal into it. In conventional farming, you're spending hundreds of thousands on concrete and sheds and stuff. And then I come along, like if I come into your yard now as an advisor and I say, okay, well, that shed that you've done for the cattle over there, you don't need that. What do you mean you don't need that? No, you don't need that. What you need to do is move the cattle around, a constant cycle of movement. I'm going to tell you to reduce by 20% and you'll have more grass. And they go, but now I don't need my shed that I've spent 70 to 80,000. And I go, I know. That's a bitter pill to swallow. Yeah. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like another thing is a poultry enterprise. So Richard Perkins from Sweden developed the Eggmobile. Now the Eggmobile is a very simple thing. It's a trailer with a hen house on it. And instead of a solid base, it has corrugated mesh. So the hen's droppings go through the floor onto the grass and you simply move the hen
What?
house forward each day.
Brilliant.
Wonderful. Imagine if you've spent 250,000 on a poultry house.
Not
What you
brilliant.
think? What you think of Richard's idea? You say that won't work. It'll never work. And then Richard said, yes, it does work. And not only does it work, but now you can also keep sheep because the poultry droppings are growing the grass so fast. You see, this is
Oh,
permaculture in tandem with Korean natural farming it's going to change the world. It'll
what's
change the
Korean
world.
natural farming?
Korean natural farming, not North Korean. Nothing comes out of North Korea except missiles at the moment. But, so Korean natural farming was developed in Korea. I'm very good friends with two guys who are developing it in Ireland, Dara Hayes and his wonderful buddy. And it's basically where you go into the woods or any tree plantation and you take the microorganisms and the microbes from under the biggest, strongest tree and you dilute it down to a substance and then kind of, what's the word when you strengthen something? Distill it. And instead of spraying chemical fertilizer and slurry, you simply water the ground with this Korean blend, and it's totally natural. It's based on mycelium, similar to mushrooms and stuff like
Okay.
that. He's now going around Ireland treating slurry tanks. So instead of dairy farmers needing to buy chemical fertilizer, he treats their slurry tank with natural goods, and they don't need chemical fertilizer. So one farm, a project farm in Limerick, that had an annual chemical fertilizer bill of 62,000. Last year, that was reduced from 62,000 to approximately €1,200 for the Korean natural farming.
Holy God.
Yeah. And the farmers can attend the course. You don't need to buy it off these lads. You can attend their course and learn how to make it yourself.
Who are these lads? I'm just going to write it up here.
Dara Hayes, and you'll have to forgive me, but his friend's name escapes me at the moment, but he's a wonderful singer. He was singing at the Homesteaders Hooley, wonderful singer.
Oh, wow. Korean, what's it called again?
Korean natural farming. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Natural. I'll just put it up here so people can actually find it. That's phenomenal. It just goes to show, though, that you don't know what you don't know until you're having a conversation with somebody.
Well,
You know,
when I done a podcast with Dara. So Dara is the nephew of a wonderful woman called Joan, who runs an organization called the Green Hearts Organization, which is a networking group all across Ireland that was developed after COVID-19 by people who didn't really want to take the injection and realized that their community was a little bit angry with them. So they met each other online and met each other in person, and etc., etc. And she asked me, would I speak to Dara? I says, I will. So I had Dara on my podcast. And when I seen a young man drink what he was telling me to put on my land, I thought that is the most powerful thing I have ever seen in my life. Because for the past 100 years, everything that we have put on land is poison. And there's this young lad who has a 5-litre drum, and he says, yes, you put one part of this into 100 litres of water, and he says, look, it's perfectly safe. And he drinks it. And I thought, wow, now we're on to something, we're going places now.
Fact. The only, I suppose, the first time, I'd always have been very for the land anyway. I don't like poisons or anything like that. But the first time I saw somebody speak about it with the passion that you're talking about, what you're talking about now, was Chloe from Blooms and Green. Have you seen
Yes,
her
very good.
online?
Yeah.
My God, isn't it amazing to watch her? And the way she grows things, the dirt in her fingers, the way she goes on, she's just fabulous. Absolutely amazing.
She's doing very well. And the better that she does, the better it is for everyone, because it'll spread the message to people that. And the wool was an excellent idea, because wool has become a byproduct now that, there's no money in wool for any farmer. So I imagine every sheep farmer in the country, if a gardener came to them and says, can I have your wool? They'll just go, yes, because it's here in my shed, it's in my ways, and I don't want it, So, yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, so it's unreal. Yeah, I love all of this because, and as you're sharing it now, and for whoever listens over however long people start listening to this is amazing because, even if one person changes something that they do, and then they tell another person, and so on and so on, and that's how things grow. And you've no idea who you're going to impact just by having a conversation like this.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
So I'll
fantastic.
just add to that there because that's a good point when you've highlighted it like that. So anyone who is interested, if they read Joel Salatin, Joel Salatin, who is now an advisor to the US agri industry. It's for the Trump administration, but to be honest about it, I'd say he was brought in under the Make America Healthy Again program. He's been interviewed on Joe Rogan as well. If you look up Joe Rogan and Joel Salatin, he runs an incredible farm in Virginia, in America, Polyface Farms, and it's so worth your while to look into. Then Richard Perkins from Sweden, who has Ridgedale Farm in Sweden, another incredible character, a man who wasn't born on a farm. He was a young guy from the town who went to college and became an academic and realized that, no, in actual fact, the best thing I can do with what I've learned is grow good food. And that's what he done. And then another man from Australia called Geoff Lawton. So Geoff is Geoff Lawton. He'd be one of the foundational developers of permaculture. And look at those three men. If you look into those three men and what they're doing, it's incredible. Geoff Lawton has gone to Africa and turned areas of desert into green land.
Wow.
And Geoff would have been an advisor to the Chinese government with regards to, I forget the name of it, but it's that desert at the north of China, between China and Mongolia.
Hmm.
They are currently rewilding that area, and wild horses that had all been killed years and years ago. So when the horses went, in came the desert. And Geoff Lawton went to the Chinese government. He says, well, let's turn it green again and we need the horses back. And it's one of the most successful reintroduction programs in the world. Wonderful. It's wonderful to see.
Oh, I'm so glad you're saying all of this and you're telling people all of this because nobody else is going to know this until you come along and you say the things that you're saying. God, this is phenomenal information for everybody who's watching. Please take this into consideration because if you have a farm, I have a friend who has a farm, and I know that he's looking at all of the things and the ways that he can actually make this farm successful because he's moved home and he's really thinking outside the box, and he's an outside the box thinker anyway. He's not
Yes.
the only one. There's
No.
young farmers all over the country who
Yes.
are wondering, what do I do? Like, how do I do what I need to do? And some of them don't know who to ask. They don't know that they even can ask somebody because they have to bootstrap it themselves and do it by themselves. And then
Yeah.
you come along with all this information, and now they have something to listen to.
Well, you see, I'm by no means an expert of permaculture. And what I like about it is nobody is. Even the guys who are at the very top, they will quite literally listen to anyone's experience and go, oh, that makes sense. I'm going to do that now. But one of the concepts, so there's several concepts in it, rotational grazing, movable infrastructure is a big one,
Mm.
which is like if you think about the farm in Ireland logically, what happens? There's a house because people need to live in a house, and they put all their sheds beside their house because why wouldn't you put them beside your house? Now you can walk from the house to your shed. When in actual fact, where does that occur in nature?
Yeah.
You know, think of all animals. Every animal moves. The only animals that really have a singular place of living are predators.
Mm.
A predator has a singular place of living. Well, we're not raising bears and leopards and things like that. What we're raising is grazing animals.
Mm.
Grazing animals move. Does it not seem logical then that where the grazing animal goes in at night moves as well? Of course it does. So if I have hens, well, my hen wants a nest to lay her egg. and she wants to go into cover for her protection at night. Now, in the wild, that hen would go into a tree or whatever. Well, we don't want that because it's bloody difficult to catch them when they're all in the trees. So we need them in a hen house.
Mhm.
So what we do is we put the hen house on wheels, and the hen house moves with the hens. So this is what I'm developing at the moment. I'm on my permaculture journey where I'm introducing the mobile structures. Now think of a rabbit. Well, a rabbit wants a burrow, naturally enough, so they want a safe place to go at night. So if you do a mobile structure, the rabbit gets new grazing every day. The structure moves. What they have eaten has been fertilized for the next growth. So you're constantly moving the animals in their own infrastructure, as opposed to doing what we all do in Ireland, which is put up the big sheds beside the house, and for the winter, you can have them inside for the winter. No.
Yeah.
So then another thing is, you say to people in Ireland, well, what happened before we started doing the English model of the cow house? Well, what happened was very simple. We were like the Maasai tribe in Africa, the Celts were. We went with the cattle. We milked the cattle in the field where they were. So why would a dairy farmer put in tens of thousands of roadways to a milking parlour when the milking parlour could follow the cattle? Do you understand me?
I get you, but I can see why there are men refusing to hear this
Well,
because,
I'll put it, because this is back to it again.
yeah,
A dairy farmer that has spent nearly $1 million on infrastructure and roadways, in you step and you say, buy a mobile parlour, follow the cattle, move the parlour behind the cattle. Your cattle, by walking 2 miles to a parlour, are not going to milk anymore. They're going to expend energy walking to and from the parlour. Follow them. So if you can imagine a mobile robotic parlour, imagine this for a concept for a dairy farmer, that you have a mobile robotic parlour. In the morning, you move the cattle to a new field and you leave your robot parlour in the corner and the cattle come in and out of it for the day. That cow hasn't wasted 2 hours walking up and down roadways that you had to make with a digger, and because these farmers have spent tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands on infrastructure that was never needed. They just needed to think.
oh Lord, yeah, that's a whole other conversation in itself. Thinking, that's been taken away, I think, from a lot of people, and that's now you're in a position where you're talking about something that's simple, easy, and makes sense, but because the thinking has gotten people to spend a huge amount of money on a thing that they don't need, it's very difficult to now move your thinking process to, how about you do this instead? Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
I was discussing this recently with a farmer who's quite local to here. He'd have a couple of 100 acres and he has roadways and this, that, and the other. And I was like, he says, oh, I don't know, would that work? I've already put the money into the roadways, blah, blah, blah. I went, yeah. I says, do you have a measuring tape? He says, I do, yeah. And we got the measuring tape. And I measured the width of the road. And I said, well, that roadway is 10 foot wide. Now I says, I want you tomorrow to take your wheel, get a wheel, a measuring wheel, and walk the entire length of all the roadways you have done and calculate how many acres of land you are not grazing because you've covered it in stone. So you can walk the cattle up and down to a parlour. And then I says, grazing land like that is worth 10,000 an acre. And I said, see how many tens of thousands you've done yourself out of by doing this roadway. So I rang him the next day and I says, how did you get on? He says, I didn't measure the road. I says, why? He says, because you're fucking right. He says, I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
I says, he goes, I'm thinking about the ground I've lost, the stone I've bought, and the machinery I've paid for to do all of this work. And he says, and all I've done is destroyed my place. That's it. That's why, a new idea is, new ideas are wonderful, but the only people who are going to go with these new ideas are young people, because a 60 or a 70-year-old farmer doesn't want to hear me coming in and saying, oh yeah, by the way, for the last 50 years, you've been a clown. Do you know? They don't want to hear that. And I don't blame them for not wanting to hear that, do you know?
Of course.
But yeah, we need to change. We have to change our entire model. Our entire model has to go mobile. And that's it.
Oh God, that's it. It's incredible. I know plenty of people who listen to this and go, that's a brilliant idea. And then there'll be other people who'll go, for fuck's sake, why did he have to say that? Knowing what they've gone and done.
Yes. Well, you see, I really think permaculture with regards to the dairy industry could really, really improve things for those farmers. I really do. Because the dairy industry have been kind of hoodwinked into infrastructure that they never needed. And it's very sad. Do you know, like when I think back on, the older farmers of years ago, well, they were already doing what I'm talking about, which is in the summertime, they would take their stool and their bucket and walk out to the field and milk Daisy in the field and then carry the bucket back in.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they were told, no, 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 what you need is a milking machine, and put the milking machine in the shed because we have all these pipes that need to be attached to something. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
So in the winter time, they would milk in the shed because the cattle were in off the land. Then they didn't really require to be in off the land. It was just convenient because they were living in a house and they hadn't a way of bringing hay to those fields that was convenient. Well, in the modern age, we do.
Yeah.
We have tractors. You know, we need to go back to what was hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
The Celts did not have yards and solid structures. You know, they didn't need to. They followed their herd. And all I'm saying to a farmer is move your herd and follow your herd. That's all.
And tell me this, the course that you're doing, so I'm just running it across the screen there, the workshop that you've coming up. What is that in relation to what you're talking about? Is that someplace, can people come to you and learn what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, and we go, hold on till I ask my Glamp, would you ever get me that A4 sheet, darling? I have a baseline of it. But anyways, it's from the very beginning of this process. It leaves you at the end of the day with a very good introduction to having a successful farm, I think. Hold on, I read this. So, right. So we begin off in the morning with the history of the Conway's family farm, and then what is homesteading, what is permaculture, and then permaculture with livestock. So rotational grazing concept and mobile infrastructure concept. And then we do a full section on sheep and goats, then pigs, then cattle, and then draft animals and small machinery, the food forest concept, basic market gardening, the benefits and drawbacks of hill farming, because we're on a hill area here, and then building a brand and marketing, and then the benefits of a close-knit online and real-life community. And then thank you for coming us here at the end of it. But there's a lot of material to cover in that. And we also do a section which is on off-grid electricity, because I'd be familiar enough with the electrical work. So we do it on that. And but the food forest concept is something that I'd really like to bring to Ireland. And it's something that if I get a few pounds for investment sectioned off discretionary, I do not understand why the villages and towns in Ireland don't have apple, plum, pear trees that a child walking to school could just go.
I know why. Do you want to know why?
No, go on.
I asked, right? Because you're speaking my language. So for years, I was wondering, why are there not apple trees and pear trees and plum trees up and down the streets? Why have we got useless trees that look nice, but we could have loads of trees with fruit growing all over the place? And I couldn't figure out who to ask. And so I decided to go ahead and find a person. And they led me to a person in the county council. And they said, it's too messy.
Yeah.
There's your
I'd
answer.
I'd imagine it to have more to do with the kind of commerce community saying, no, 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 we don't like the idea of free pickable food on the side of the road. Yeah.
Just makes no sense.
Well, you see, you see in the modern age, I think there's a requirement for guerrilla groups. And I think what they should be doing is planting trees and, you know, doing nice little projects. I thought it would be a hilarious thing to have balaclavaed men planting a tree, you know, an apple tree or a pear tree or that, and the full regalia on them, you know, the full camouflage regalia, and a bit of a thumbs up to people and that. I always thought that would be a beautiful thing.
It'd be
But
priceless.
no, the food forest concept to me, you know, we have hedgerows that could well be fuchsia. Because I remember when I was a young man, you know, you'd pick a honeysuckle and
Mm.
suck the honey out of it and all that. I think we have to get back to that everybody, as they go through their day-to-day life, is like the animal grazing. Do you
Yeah.
know? I just like the idea that, like, and it's not hard done. Wouldn't it be a beautiful thing in Moore Street or any of these really kind of, you know, impoverished areas of Dublin, or Sheriff Street, I think it's called, sorry, where people are on their last, you know, there's a lot of addiction up there and stuff like that, and people haven't a penny. Well, would it not be a beautiful thing if someone could just put their hand up and pluck an apple and said, you know something, I'm in the depths of addiction here, but I can have a lovely fresh apple, do you know, and life is not that bad, do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too kind of utopian or that, but I can't understand why any government wouldn't plant apple trees every place.
No, but when somebody says that phrase, maybe I'm being too utopian. I started thinking about this maybe a year ago. I think that that's a sentence that we've been fed so that we won't carry that potential and possibility to its end. Like,
Yeah.
well, you can't have that because that's too utopian. You couldn't have that because that's in an ideal world. But what if we could? What if an ideal world was that possible? And you're not
Mm.
talking about fairy tales and unicorns, you're talking about normality of oranges and lemons and apples growing on the tree. They do it in Greece. I lived in Greece. There's oranges and lemons growing on trees. It felt like I was in a Roald Dahl book.
Well,
So,
it's the same. Um, when me and my wife traveled to Turkey, it's the same thing. There's oranges and stuff in the streets of the towns,
yeah.
but there's still wonderful markets which have all the fruit and veg for sale. And like I thought, you know, you can't say, oh, well, we can't have the apples on the trees outside because no one will buy the apples in the shop. No, because in Turkey, people still go to the market and buy their oranges and apples. It's almost as if it's a thing, there's a respect where, well, I don't need to take that for free.
Mm,
I'm doing all right. So I leave that for the person who needs it.
yeah.
And that's what I'd be saying is, and like, here's a better one or that. Let's take the small village and let's have the apple tree and stuff like that. And then at the end of the village, let's have our pig pen with 2 pigs. And instead of everyone throwing their food waste into the bin, we say, make sure you bring down your kitchen waste to the communal pig pen. And in September or October, we'll have 2 pigs for slaughter, and we'll all know that they were very well fed, and we all looked after them, and we took away their waste, and we made stuff for our gardens out of it. Yeah, it's just look at. I think you see, the disappointing thing to me about Ireland is ludicrously easy to grow anything in.
Mm,
It's ludicrously easy. Like you go to parts of the world, South Africa, Australia, and if you take a satellite image, you will see circles, because what they have is these very long irrigation pipes that go around in a circle. There might be 40 or 50 acres being irrigated. They have to water this land constantly to grow anything. And here we are in Ireland. Like,
Yeah.
fair enough, we might have, this year we've had a good summer and everyone's roaring about drought. I have an uncle in Australia. He's a very large farmer. I was talking to him the other day and he says, yeah, when it goes on for 6 years, tell me about it. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah, so we don't really know. We don't really know yet what drought is in Ireland. You know, we've had a hot summer. We've had a hot summer.
We've had a summer. It's just hilarious, isn't it? But even like that, I've no plums and no pears this year because the trees didn't fruit, because they were just coming into flower as the really hot weather came, and then the ground dried up so completely that the flowers couldn't actually bloom.
I think that's down to the Korean natural farming thing. I watered all of mine with this stuff and I've had very good fruit.
Okay, I need to
Very good
know
fruit.
about that.
Yeah.
I need to know more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dara, I think Dara would be an incredible interview for you.
I'll
Yeah, really
definitely
good.
contact
Yeah.
him. Yeah,
I'll give you his contact details after. It's
brilliant.
wonderful. But yeah, he gave me the two 5 litre drums of it there at the Homesteaders Hooley Festival in June, and that I did give them a good dousing of it, and we've had remarkably good apples and plums and stuff like that.
I
So
think this is incredible. Well, now that you've brought it up, we need to talk about the Hooli,
yes,
because I don't know, I just think what an incredible thing to do, to create something of that level. When did it, okay, no, I'll start at the beginning. How did you decide that you were going to have something like this?
well, it wasn't just me. So we're blessed in this part of Sligo that there's happened since there's 9 or 10 families in the one area who are all kind of on the one wavelength.
Mhm.
And when 2020 was occurring, we we weren't on board. So we weren't.
Yeah,
We were
same.
we were not on board. And we did realize that there's a lot of people in the country, because you'd be speaking to them who were on the same wavelength. And we just says, wouldn't it be great to have a secret festival? Because you couldn't go anywhere. You weren't allowed to travel anywhere. I think 21 was the first year we'd done it. It was either 20 or 2021. And we had a secret festival. And everybody made their way here. We didn't advertise it. It was just amongst ourselves.
Brilliant.
And we were down in the valley there having, the best of music, the best of information talks. There'd probably be 70 or 80 people at the first one. And it's just grown since that. And we called it the Homesteaders Hooley because we were all kind of homesteaders and we
Yeah.
had a good time. And yeah, it just grew from that. And it's lovely.
And you've
It's
just had
really,
one.
yes, in June. So we've ran it every year since. And yeah, every year it doubled. So this year is probably around 1,000 people.
Compound
Over.
interest is a great thing.
Well, I think what it is that we've never changed it.
Lovely.
So the first year was David Riley with his Celtic Chariot, and he does a full reenactment of the Celtic Warrior. And we had wonderful musicians and traditional musicians. And yeah, then we were talking about beekeeping and like that core group that was there the first year. Most of them are back every year.
Phenomenal.
And for us, it's just a lovely weekend. But I always like meeting someone who's come to it for the first time because they're just blown away. They're like, this is the best thing ever.
I'm
And
coming next year.
oh, you're more than welcome and you'll have it. But like, it's strange. For me, I have to be filled with gratitude because to me now it's just normal.
Yeah.
To me, it's, oh, well, there's a weekend and you'll learn about off-grid electricity, Korean natural farming, beekeeping. You'll have a predatory birds guy. You'll have all these knowledgeable people. And this year was the first year where all of the kind of home producers that come to the fair days, the ones who had came to every fair day, I was like, just come to the festival, set up and sell your goods and stuff there. So that
Wow.
added another dynamic to it.
Mhm.
So we had one guy, and it was the most incredible thing ever. He's selling, it's like a traditional drink in Ireland. I don't know, can you say this on the podcast? But he sells it regularly.
Whatever you like. You can say whatever you like.
It's a traditional drink, very strong. And he sold 100 bottles in 3 hours at the festival.
Savage.
And he had came to me beforehand, and he says, "How many bottles of this should I bring?" I says, "Bring 300 anyways." And he laughed. And I was thinking to myself, well, maybe sometimes I can be very serious that you don't really know if I'm serious or taking the piss. And I was like, maybe I handled that badly. But he came over, he had brought 100 and he sold his 100 in a couple of hours. And he says, "James, you don't understand what this means." I says, "What?" He says, "I brought 100 bottles thinking you were mad. And if I sold 40 or 50, I would have been really happy. I'd have had a great weekend." He says, "This means that I can tax and insure my van."
Ah,
And I thought, that's the best thing I've heard in years.
yeah.
So this man had came, taxes insured his van, and had a wonderful weekend for himself.
Oh,
And that's what it's all about. This is what it's all
oh,
about.
that gives you a warm feeling, gives me a warm feeling because what you're doing is you're creating this incredibly connected community space for people to come and actually better themselves in
But
the
you see,
ways that are really important.
you're not really creating. What you're doing is facilitating.
I love it.
And, uh, you know, what have I done here? I've opened the gate. That's all. I haven't done much other than that. I went, there's not an awful pile of work to this. We built a stage down in the valley. I'm a builder. Building a stage wasn't a big deal. We ring up a marquee crowd a couple of weeks before the festival and we rent some marquees. I get on to my mates in the plant hire trade and I rent a generator or two that there's power for the marquees. You're not doing anything that's reinventing the wheel. The biggest thing about it is the bravery to just open the gate and allow people in. Because there's this thing, I think it's a lack of trust with the farming community. They think that, oh, if someone comes on your place and they have an accident, they're going to take the place off. That's what insurance is for.
Mm-hmm.
You get event insurance. A lovely lady or a lovely man from the insurance company will spend 2 hours asking questions about the event and you answer them truthfully. And then they give you insurance and you say to yourself, okay, that's how much the insurance costs. That means I'll have to sell this many tickets to cover the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually what I do is, so now we do online sales. But the first year, what I done, we done as a group, we rang up good friends and we says, we need you to pay for your ticket now because we need to pay for the insurance. Yeah, no problem.
Brilliant.
That's fine.
Brilliant.
It's just a bit of legwork. It's not a big ordeal. It's not a big
Mm-hmm.
ordeal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but so I watched a video earlier on today and I thought it was really a beautiful video and I think it's apt for you in this moment because your humility is very clear. Like you're saying it doesn't take much. But this guy said in this video, and I know you're a fan of God, so am I, and he said most people complicate their gift, right? So the thing that God gives you that you can do that's the easiest thing in the world that you don't even have to think about, that you say, just like you did there, it's not hard for me to build a stage. It's not hard for me to do this. But the thing is, you're following the thing that's the easiest thing for you to do. So you are creating this incredible space. You are facilitating something amazing. And you're doing it because it's easy for you to do, but it's not easy for anybody else to do. Everybody else is coming and they're getting to enjoy what you've created and facilitated. And I think that's phenomenal that
Well,
you have that humility to just go, ah, well.
yeah, but like, you see, for me, it's very difficult for me to take much fucking credit for it because
Well, tough. Just take it.
no, but like we had a wonderful day here, building a bridge. literally building a bridge, and I thought it was a kind of a, what's the word for it? Do you know when something has deeper meaning or that? I was
Yeah.
like, well, Ireland's fucked at the moment. We need to build a bridge. Do you know? So we had we had between 15 and 20 men here the one day, and we built the first bridge on that particular river since the 1950s. So since the 1950s, there would have been 7 bridges on that river for fishermen to cross to
Mm-hmm.
access the river for fishing. Now ours is the only bridge because we built it ourselves.
Amazing.
And that's a sad reflection on the Irish government.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we done that, and what did we do? All of the lads that turned up were either builders or they were interested in building and wanted to learn a bit more. It was 15 to 20 lads having a lovely day, and then we had a barbecue and a couple of beers.
Super.
And you see, I do always say this, right? If I'm Sligo County Council now and I wanted to build that bridge, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So on Conway's farm, we had 1,100 euros of materials, maybe 100 euros on food and beer. So let's call it 1,200 euros. If Sligo County Council asked a builder to quote them that bridge, and you see, I think this is the trouble that the government are running into is I know that Ireland is full of fantastic people
Mm-hmm.
who would have no bother giving up their time if they knew they could go to a place, have good fun, have some good food, and a bit of a drink after.
Yeah.
But instead of that, what we have is no, everything is a contractor, and the contractor has to have the correct insurance for this day and blah, blah, blah. We complicate things too much.
Oh,
And
too
that's all the
much.
truth.
Too much.
It's too complicated. You know, as I says, we've done incredible things here. And it's just being simple, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But there's an element too that people, if you say you're going to do something and do it,
Mm.
then people begin to trust you.
Yeah.
So we had an initial meeting in January, and it was recorded. You can, if anyone goes to Silent Majority Media, you can see the initial meeting. It was after Storm Owen. Was that this year
Oh,
or last?
yes, that was this
Yes,
year. That was February, I think, wasn't it?
yes. So we had our initial meeting after that, and it was kind of funny because all of the power in the entire area was gone except for our house because we had gone kind of down the generator and off grid group.
Brilliant.
So the first thing that people noticed is okay, shops and businesses are closed because they have no power. But this guy who's been telling us for the last couple of years to prepare for no power has power. Okay, so the first thing I know is he's not full of bullshit. He's here with a kettle going and soup is here and what he says then. So anyways, I says in the next couple of months, we will do a planting day. We will plaster that wall. We'll start a mural wall, all of these things. And then I says, we will have a festival. And by the time of the festival, that wall will be plastered and we'll have our first mural on that wall. And then we done it. And that was it. And then people are going, oh, right. So unlike a politician, this guy gave me a time frame and
Mm-hmm.
told me what was going to happen. And then it happened before the time frame was in. And then you see, that's the way I think to build community is if you're going to put yourself in a format of asking people to do something, then show them that you can do it as well. You know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you can do it.
100%.
You know.
100%. No, I think fantastic. Fantastic. James, you are a breath of fresh air. You really are. It's fantastic to just before we came on, we were talking about music, and I was saying I had been listening to like very deep rooted Celtic music and feeling that Irishness that, as we've said, sometimes people aren't connected to anymore. And you epitomize, I would say, that Irish community spirit. And it's really refreshing to hear you talk in the way that you're talking about what you're doing in your community and wider community. So keep up the fabulous work. Do not ever stop what you're doing,
Thank
because
you.
it sounds like you've hit the sweet spot for what's needed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. And is it Saturday this weekend that you have the course? Is that right?
So Saturday this weekend we have an off-grid electrical course.
Okay.
Uh, Sunday we have the fair day. So we
Okay.
go. So these is how my days goes at the moment. Tomorrow I am traveling to Ballybridge and Galway. I have to do 3 podcasts tomorrow. Then the course is on Saturday. Then the fair day is on Sunday, and then Monday I'm booked in for something else. I can't remember what it is now, but I know I'm booked in. It's just a constant cycle at the moment. And I do feel some days of, oh God, what have you put yourself in for here at all? You know? But for the listener in Canada or Australia or any of those places, they would probably think it's not possible to have that type of schedule in Ireland. Who could possibly be having all these things happening in their life? And I am, and I'm eternally grateful to the people of Ireland and around the world for that. I'm so grateful because we're on the cusp here of developing a business that I think will be kind of a beacon to other young farmers to go, oh, he done it. You know, I never thought you'd be a farmer in the west of Ireland with 100,000 people following your accounts over social media and all that. I never thought that was possible. It is.
Yeah.
And credit to all the team, Morris and Catherine and my wife Rose and everyone who's involved. It's wonderful. And Adam.
And Adam, I was going to say, Adam, good man, Adam. Tell
You
Rose we said hello and thank you so much for you giving us your time and her looking after the things that she needs to look after. Fair play. You seem to
know,
have a really good system worked out, and I can't wait to meet you in person, and I can't wait to come and see the farm.
you're welcome anytime.
You're a star. Listen, everyone, you can find James on Facebook on Conway's Farm. You can find him on Alan Clark's podcast. You can find him. Have you been on Alan's, or is it
No, Stephen Kelly's
Stephen? Yes.
and David Cuddy's, and there
Yeah.
might be of interest that I was successful in predicting the Iran war and stuff like that.
Jeez.
I'm actually, I got a phone call from a man the other day, and he says, I listened to your original David Cuddy podcast. And I went, oh God, it's a long time ago. And he goes, yeah, not much that you got wrong in that. And I was like, all right, fair enough.
Unreal. So you're predicting then.
Yeah. Now, my, look at AI. I think she's about to shit herself.
I hope so.
Well, I think so. I don't. You see, I don't think people need to actually be that worried about it at all. From a grid standpoint, and I know this beyond any reasonable doubt, the contracts that have been signed, the capacity to build that data center network doesn't exist. It simply doesn't exist. The amount of copper, the amount of energy, the amount of rare. In my humble opinion, AI is actually a Ponzi scheme. And I think it collapses very, very shortly. Very, very shortly, in my opinion.
I really hope so. And, you know, I'm part of a community group here, and we had been talking about is it Kilmina? No, Kilowalla. There's a data center proposed for out that neck of the woods.
Right.
And they're all looking at stopping it. You know, they've come out strongly and said they don't want anything to do with it. Yeah, just no. Just no.
I don't think, look at, if I asked you to invest, let's say I came to you here this evening and I'm Conway's Farm, and I says, listen, I'd like you to invest in Conway's Farm. And you say, well, then might have a look at your books. And I said, yeah, it's a good business. I'm currently 76 billion in debt. And I've promised to pay this other company 300 billion and this other company 420 billion. And for every dollar you invest, I lose $1.26. That is OpenAI.
Yeah.
People don't realize this because they don't look at the books. Sam Altman will go down in history as the greatest fraudster who ever lived. And you know, in the past 3 to 4 weeks, nearly the entirety of his managing, directors and all of that have left. They are describing him as a farcical man, a man who's absolutely, his head is gone. Chat GPT, like if people really want to beat AI, what I'd be saying to them is constantly use it with ridiculous questions, because for every piece of computing power that you use of ChatGPT, you lose them money. ChatGPT is in the amazing position that with every new customer they get, it costs them money. That can't last. That
That's
simply
wild.
can't last. It's not a business model, it's a Ponzi scheme. That's all it is.
Oh, that's wild.
So the fact that most nations have invested their pension funds in it is a tad worrying.
Just a touch. Oh my God. You don't know what you don't know. But again, it's great to have the conversations that need to be had around it. You know, when people speak out about it and do conspiracy theories that come true down the line, I think it's really important for those conversations to be had. And even if it's only tidbits, even if it's only the stuff that you're saying here, that people actually start to think for themselves, you know.
Well, I think a company, and look at, I love a good prediction. I think there's a company called Oracle that develop data centers. I think they will be damn near bankrupt before Christmas. And
Wow.
I think ChatGPT and Nvidia will be very closely to their heels.
You've heard it here first, folks. Let's see how this goes. Wow. Okay.
I think looking at the maths,
Mm,
I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to maths, and there's a Warren Buffett had a fantastic statement. It was, about timing the market.
mhm.
The market can remain insane longer than you can remain solvent, which means that you can bet against these companies, but
Very
they
good.
could keep going. But
Hmm.
I am looking at just looking at the mathematics of it. It's impossible. Read a study recently that was conducted by MIT. When MIT are a very good research agency when it comes to technology and stuff like that. 20 companies that were involved that adopted AI, 19 of the 20 companies saw no improvement, and approximately 12 of the companies seen an actual decline in their ability to do their own
Wow.
job. Have you heard about the Pizza Hut lawsuit?
No.
So you know how Pizza Hut is a franchise model. So for anyone, a franchise model is where somebody else owns the restaurant, but they take on the franchise of it.
Hmm.
So Pizza Hut made it that you had to use AI in your delivery system, to improve things.
Yeah.
And what happened was, in actual fact, the old system of human being answering phone, taking order and sending it out used to be able to deliver the pizza in under 30 minutes. With AI, it increased to 47 minutes minimum. So the franchise holders sued the parent company, Pizza Hut, because they had laid off staff who were more effective than the AI and lost customers over delayed delivery times by adopting AI. There's a lot of these stories that are not public knowledge in Ireland. AI is having a terrible time, very bad time.
Thank God.
Yeah, and there's another one in corporates all around the world. I was only speaking to a young man today who works for a very large tire company. He's a European sales rep. They were made to use AI. So it transpires that for AI to be used by the people working in the companies, they have to be told to use it. Now, did anyone working in an office have to be told to use the internet? No.
No.
So if you have a technology that you need a cattle prod to tell people to use.
Yeah.
It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign.
No, no, it isn't. And I've definitely seen an uptake in on your on job websites that AI is required for this, or you must learn AI to do this part of this job. AI is required here. AI is required here. So they're hard pushing it.
Well, they are, but you see why,
Mm,
and the why is very, very easy for me to realize is an awful lot of the companies that are pushing for you to use AI are invested in the providers of AI.
mm,
They have gambled everything that their stock price is going to go up, and it's
yeah,
not. Because at the end of the day, how will I finish on this? 19 out of 20 businesses seeing no improvement and one business seeing an improvement. That's not a revolution. That's a
yeah,
lottery.
yeah,
That's a lottery.
yeah.
If you have 1 in 20 odds that you might be better off, no,
They're not going to.
no business is going to adopt that.
No.
Volkswagen, the same thing. Volkswagen is going to have one of the greatest lawsuits that's ever been had because they adopted AI into their factory. And it's just coming back now what the AI has done to the computers of the brains of the cars. It's another one for people if they just keep an eye on it. Volkswagen is going to have a very hard time. Very
So
hard time.
let's not buy any Volkswagens that have electrical capacities. Thanks very much. Oh my goodness. You're a mine of information.
Ah, well, like my thing, I like to stick me 2 earbuds in whilst I'm working on the farm and listen to not news talk and RTE, you know.
What do you mean you don't listen to RTE?
No, no.
Don't you want to know what's going on in the world?
Well, that's it, yeah. It's a good place. Whatever about the Angelus, I won't blame anyone for watching the Angelus on it. That's lovely. But turn it off after the Angelus and then
Yeah,
turn it on when the weather is on and they can tell you that we're all going to burn to death, you know.
that's it with their crayons. Oh,
Yeah.
James, you're a gas ticket. You know something? It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. And I think I was kind of, well, I think I said this to you. I'd love to get you on at different times to maybe talk through more stuff that's going on in the world, more stuff that's going on in Ireland, and give people a kind of an open view of someone who has lots of information that's actually researched and well done. Would you be up for that?
Sure, just give me a shout when AI collapses there after Halloween or that.
Like you said, before December. Okay, I'll be back
Right.
to you.
Well, I says on a Cuddy podcast, it was we had it in January, and I timed AI, and I says I think it's going to collapse in April.
Okay.
Do you get me? And and it was April came, and I was chatting to David, and I went, no, I kind of called it wrong, and he went, what? And I says, well, I says it hasn't collapsed, and he went, well, whatever share it was, he says, has fell by $200. He says that's a collapse, and I went, yeah, but it's not gone to zero, has it? And he goes, and he says, do you know? He says that is a collapse, like, and he says you got it right, and I was like, yeah, but it's not dead in the water yet. You see, I think there will be AI, but not to the degree that people think, not to the degree people think. And in actual fact, what does that say? Because what that says to me, because everything boils down to value.
Mm.
There are still enough people in the world willing to give away their time for a rate that's so cheap that it's not even worth replacing with a machine.
Yeah.
That's a frightening thought.
Yeah.
Because the reason that AI is not working is because human labor is still exchangeable at such a low rate.
Which
There's
is
one to
mad when
ponder.
you think about it. Yeah, for
There's one to
sure.
ponder.
What a way to finish. Could you leave us on a high note, James? Any chance?
Come to come to the fair day on Sunday and it'll be wonderful, Tony. You'll all enjoy yourself. You'll all
You
enjoy
have the
yourself.
you have the fair days every month, don't you? And
Yes, what
September
we'll
is
be,
going to be your last one.
yeah, and what we'll probably do in September is have a harvest hula, kind of a celebrationary one, and
Mhm.
a kind of bigger, better one than they usually are every month, but not to the same size as the festival, if you get me, but
Mhm.
definitely a special one, a very special.
Okay. Well, put my name in the pot for your September harvest hoolie,
Will do.
and I'll see you then.
No problem.
Absolute legend. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope now you're going to rest for the rest of the evening because you have a busy day and a busy weekend ahead.
Thank you, everyone.
Mind yourself. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care, James.